The sun peeked through the curtains of Jordan's modest apartment, heralding a day that was destined to change his life forever. Today wasn't just any day, it was the day, his wedding day. Months of meticulous planning and sleepless nights had culminated in this moment. Jordan could hardly believe that in just a few hours, he would be standing at the altar, pledging his life to Emma, his soulmate and the love of his life. The morning was a whirlwind of activity. His best man, Tony, arrived early, bringing with him an extra layer of chaos. Between last-minute suit adjustments and a barrage of congratulatory phone calls, Jordan barely had time to breathe. Despite the frenzy, his heart was full. "I've got everything handled," Tony assured him, holding up the rings. "All you need to do is get to the venue on time." Jordan grinned nervously, adjusting his tie in the mirror. Easier said than done. Tony had arranged for a small private plane to fly Jordan to the wedding venue, a scenic estate nestled in the countryside. It was a grand gesture, fitting for the occasion. The plan was for Jordan to make a dramatic entrance, landing just as the guests were seated. Emma had always said he had a flair for the theatrical. With his suit immaculate and his heart pounding, Jordan climbed into the sleek fighter-style plane, piloted by an old friend of Tony's, an ex-military pilot named Chase. The engine roared to life, and the plane taxied down the runway. Jordan waved to Tony, who stood on the tarmac, giving a thumbs up. As the plane ascended into the clear blue sky, Jordan felt a rush of exhilaration. He glanced out the window, taking in the breathtaking view below. The world seemed small from this height, his worries even smaller. Little did he know, the day was about to take an unexpected and perilous turn. The first sign of trouble came less than 10 minutes into the flight. The plane jolted violently, throwing Jordan forward against his seatbelt. "Was that turbulence?" he asked, his voice tight with unease. Chase's face was grim. "No. Something's wrong with the engine." "Stay calm, I've got this." Jordan gripped the armrest as Chase toggled switches and radioed for assistance. The cockpit filled with alarms, their shrill cries piercing through Jordan's rising panic. Through the windshield, the idyllic countryside stretched out below, but it was marred by the sight of smoke billowing from the plane's engine. "We are going to have to make an emergency landing," Chase announced, his voice steady but tense. Jordan's heart pounded as the plane began to lose altitude. Trees and fields bled past at an alarming speed. Chase expertly guided the plane toward a flat clearing, but the descent was far from smooth. The impact was jarring, the plane skidding across the ground before coming to a shuddering halt in a cloud of dust and debris. When the world finally stopped spinning, Jordan unclasped his seatbelt, his hands trembling. Are we alive?" "Alive, but not out of the woods yet," Chase said, pointing to the smoke now filling the cockpit. "We need to get out. Now." The two men scrambled out of the plane just as flames began licking at its sides. Jordan stumbled into the field, his suit torn and covered in soot. His head was spinning, but he was alive. And then it hit him. The wedding. Emma. The guests. The clock. "We have to go," Jordan exclaimed, turning to Chase. "I can't be late. I can't." But they were miles from the venue, with no immediate means of transport. As the wreckage of the plane smoldered behind them, Jordan realized this was only the beginning of his fight to get to the altar. Jordan and Chase emerged from the field onto a dirt road, the horizon stretching endlessly ahead. Jordan's phone had been crushed in the crash, leaving him unable to call for help. The road was deserted, but hope flickered when they spotted a rusty pickup truck parked near an abandoned barn. "We'll take it," Chase declared, already inspecting the vehicle. "You mean steal it?" Jordan asked, aghast. "Borrow," Chase corrected, finding the keys tucked in the visor. "We'll return it. Hopefully." The truck sputtered to life, its engine coughing like an old smoker. Jordan climbed in, his heart racing as they barreled down the road. Every second felt like an eternity. He pictured Emma at the altar, her radiant smile faltering as the minutes ticked by without him. The journey was far from smooth. The truck hit a pothole, sending Jordan's head colliding with the roof. Then they were forced to detour around a herd of cows that had wandered onto the road. Time seemed to conspire against them at every turn. Just when it seemed like things couldn't get worse, the truck's engine began to sputter ominously. "Don't you dare die on me now," Chase barked, slamming the dashboard. They coasted into a small town just as the truck gave its final cough. Jordan jumped out, spotting a group of kids with bikes nearby. Inspiration struck. "Hey, kid," he called, waving a crisp bill he had salvaged from his wallet. "I'll pay you for that bike." Minutes later, Jordan was pedaling furiously down the main road, the wind tearing at his ruined suit. Chase stayed behind to deal with the truck, yelling after him, "Go. Don't stop for anything." The venue was still miles away, but Jordan refused to give up. His legs burned, and his lungs screamed for air, but the thought of Emma waiting kept him going. As Jordan approached the estate, the majestic spires of the venue came into view, their silhouettes glowing in the late afternoon light. He was drenched in sweat, his suit in tatters, but relief surged through him. He was close. The driveway was lined with cars, and he could hear the faint hum of music. He dropped the bike and ran the rest of the way, bursting through the garden gate just as the officiant was clearing his throat. Every head turned as Jordan stumbled into view, his once polished appearance now a shadow of its former self. Gasps rippled through the crowd, but none were as poignant as Emma's. She stepped forward, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Jordan. I'm here," he panted, doubling over to catch his breath. "I promised I'd make it." Tears shimmered in her eyes as she crossed the distance between them. "You look awful," she said, a laugh bubbling through her emotion. "And you look perfect," he replied, straightening up despite his aching body. The officiant, recovering from his shock, cleared his throat. "Shall we proceed?" Jordan nodded, taking Emma's hands in his. The chaos, the danger, the fight, it all faded as he gazed into her eyes. In that moment, nothing else mattered. As the vows were spoken and the rings exchanged, Jordan couldn't help but marvel at the journey that had brought him here. He had fought against the odds, and though he was battered and bruised, he had made it to the altar. And as he kissed his bride, the world seemed to hold its breath, celebrating a love that no obstacle could extinguish.
There are a lot of lessons to be learned from this story. I would love to hear your opinion in comment section. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like, share, and press the red button to subscribe to my channel. Bye.